Hi, I'm your Howard County Executive Calvin Ball, welcoming you to the Maryland Association of Counties Conduit Street Podcast, the show that discusses the issues and ideas shaping Maryland policy and politics today.
Hello, and welcome to the Conduit Street Podcast. My name is Sarah Sample from the Mako Policy Team, and I'll be your host for this episode. And we've got a good one for you. Today, I am joined by two very special guests to discuss the use of drones as first responders. It's an exciting and innovative public safety program out of Montgomery County. And I have the pleasure of speaking with Councilmember Dawn Luedtke from District 7 in Montgomery County. She is a former Assistant Attorney General for the state of Maryland, a certified law enforcement trainer, and brings a wealth of expertise to the public safety conversation. Additionally, we are joined by Captain Jason Cokinos, who serves as the Director of the Special Operations Division for the Montgomery County Police and heads up the drone program that we will be discussing today. So first off, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's exciting to be here.
Wonderful. Well, so how is everyone enjoying this beautiful June day? Are you excited for this summer? Any big plans other than the Mako conference, of course?
Actually, I have to head over to Ocean City earlier than the Mako conference. I have to go there this weekend. My youngest son has a lacrosse tournament over there. So.
Oh, wonderful. Hopefully they get great weather for that.
Yeah.
Well, there could be worse places to have to go during the summer. So.
Well, how about you, Captain? Any exciting plans?
I will be also going to Ocean City a couple times this summer. Hopefully, trying to make some more time to soak in the beach, and then just working all summer. We have a lot of activity going on. Unfortunately, I guess, and fortunately.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know that somebody is focused on it and doing that work. So on that note, I really dive right in. So. As far as drones, I feel like they are everywhere now. There are private civilian drones for fun. Amazon drones are making deliveries. I've seen environmental research drones, ones for shooting marketing videos, and now public safety drones. So it really seems like the applications are almost endless.
There's definitely a higher number of them than we've ever seen before. And, from the hobbyists up to the commercial applications, or in this case, public safety applications.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so for Montgomery County, tell us a little bit about where the idea to start the drone as a first responder program came from. Was it something everyone thought would be cool and useful, or were you sort of facing challenges and needed a solution like this, or a little bit of both? Where did it really start?
Yeah, so we've been using drones, in Montgomery County. Montgomery County Fire Rescue back in 2018 really started the drone discussion. In 2020, Montgomery County Police started using drones officially for things like search and rescue and crime scene mapping and tactical situations, different things like that. But when we got into 2022, there was I came to special operations. My lieutenant at the time, Tony Galladora, he's really big into drones. And he said, hey, there's this concept out of Chula Vista, California, drone as first responder. We should take a look at this. This can really benefit our community in Montgomery County. So that's where the idea kind of came from. And then from there, we did some research. And what we were looking for here is, we have a police staffing issue. We have a crime issue in certain areas. We have a lot of 911 calls, and we're trying to improve our response times. We want to be more efficient with our police resources as we try to rebuild our staffing. And we really want to continue to provide high quality service to the community. And we have to leverage technology to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've seen, I think I first started paying attention to public safety drones. I want to say when I saw something out in Illinois, they actually, I think we're one of the first states to start trying using it like preventatively. I know a lot of policy leads in the direction of them using it sort of reactionary when a call comes in and things like that. But yeah, out in Illinois, they had a mass casualty event, I think it's some large event. And so that led to their legislative body passing a little bit more flexibility so that they could use them over large outdoor events, sort of to do sort of preventative scanning of some of those events. So yeah, I've definitely seen different applications across different states.
Yeah, it's really expanding, in public safety in particular, and obviously outside public safety, but even in other government agencies. I was just talking to the Maryland Department of Transportation yesterday, and they're starting to expand the use of drones on the interstate highway system and stuff. So there's a lot of benefits.
And they're a lot quieter than a helicopter.
And cheaper.
Yes, and cheaper.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I think that we also saw was, we in Montgomery County, we do not have a police helicopter, and it's
Right.
The air support is really important for law enforcement, and for us not having that kind of puts us behind a little bit. But with drones, obviously it's clean energy too. We're not burning fuel. We don't have the costs associated with fuel, so this was kind of a good environmental thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I guess then in terms of the sort of research procedure before procurement, I mean, did you look into some of the stuff that other states were doing and some of the types of savings like that they were seeing? Or did you start to consider what's out there now when it comes to the existing programs?
Yeah, we did about a year of research before we brought this idea further than just in-house in the special operations office. And we traveled to California. We went to Beverly Hills. We went to Santa Monica, and we went to Chula Vista. They have 3 really established drone as first responder programs. It was nice that it was in California as well. It wasn't a bad trip. But we did learn a lot from going out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's I think just adds the layer of sort of prudence and sort of responsibility that goes into using a program like that, is really making sure that you're not starting from scratch when you don't have to, and really trying to figure out what are the good and the bad elements and the successes and challenges of some of those other programs. And so, yeah, so it's really great to hear that. But so I guess with some of these other programs that have been up and running, have they run into trouble with policies or lawsuits? What does the legal landscape look like so far when it comes to this?
So we've done a lot of research with a lot of those agencies. And like I said, Chula Vista has been doing it since 2018. They're the first agency in the country to do this concept. So it was good to go out there and see. Everyone does it a little differently. And of course, actually, we do it a little differently in Montgomery County for a number of reasons. But not vastly different, but everyone has little tweaks based on their community and different things. But the only legal troubles that have been going on is in Chula Vista. They're recently going through some court battles with the release of drone video. And
PIA.
Yeah, and they had basically a flat out, we don't release anything. And that was something that was being challenged through the courts there. We don't have that issue here, obviously. We have the MPIA process and different things like that. So we treat our video just like body camera. And we're a very transparent program. So we have not faced those similar concerns. And I think they're working through that out in Chula Vista. But we haven't been aware of any other legal issues or challenges. We've already had a couple of our drone as first responder cases in district court in Montgomery County. There's been no legal challenges here either.
Wow. So that's pretty quick implementation. So when did your program start? Was it 2023?
Yeah, we started in November 15th, 2023 was our hard launch. We did some training and testing through October before that, got everything set up, and then we, kind of pulled back the curtain in mid-November.
Wow. So yeah, so then the usefulness in terms of sort of the court procedures, I mean, it was immediate. Yeah, I mean,
we modeled everything. We didn't reinvent the wheel. So we treat the video from the drone the same as, police body camera, police dash cam video. Yeah. So it all gets tagged as evidence, and it's introduced into the court system the same way as other police video evidence.
Well, so, all right. So you saw the need, you did some research, and then you went out there and you got yourselves a Raven. Is that what the system is named? Did I see that online?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Why a Raven and not a Falcon?
Well, so Raven is the call sign. We had to come up with a call sign, a radio designator. Mm-hmm. All law enforcement aircraft, drones, even though it's not a helicopter, an airplane is classified as an aircraft by the FAA. So we came up with a designator. A lot of our surrounding agencies, like Prince George's County, has Guardian, so that was a good one they already had. Falcon is Washington, D.C. Eagle is U.S. Park Police. So we had to come up with something.
Yeah.
And so we came up with Raven. There was a lot of thought put into that, actually. We did a deep dive into the bird, their intelligence levels.
I love that.
Yeah.
I just thought it was, there was a groundswell of support from special ops being Ravens fans in the division, but I guess I was wrong.
No, I'm actually a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Too.
So
Yeah.
So no affiliation with Baltimore Ravens, although it does fit nicely in the state of Maryland, of course.
Yes.
But
my first thought was Poe.
Yeah, we looked at the characteristics of the bird itself. We did some deep research. If we're going to use this as a call sign, if we're going to put this out publicly, we want to make sure that there's nothing that is negative about it. So we did some research to cover our bases there, and then we really looked at how does the bird and the characteristics of the bird and different things about it kind of fit into the program and what we're looking to do. And there were some overlapping similarities, which were interesting.
Absolutely. And I love that sort of like core, like meaningfulness, like that goes back to like all the thoughtfulness in terms of how you're establishing it. So then tell me a little bit about like the real life scenarios. So like you get a 911 call in that demands a certain type of response, or is it a universal tool in all different types of calls? Like, how does that work?
Well, so I want to sort of remind folks, because the program as we launched it here in Montgomery County covers two specific areas. So it is not countywide. Right now, the hard launch in November that Jason referenced was for downtown Silver Spring, and then subsequently Wheaton. So there are two that exist presently. And then I think it was immediately that I sent Jason questions about what it would take in order for us to be able to expand the program, because Up County would like it too. People forget that Montgomery County, although it's not the largest landmass county of our 24 jurisdictions, is geographically incredibly diverse. And also we have, more urbanized areas and we have extremely rural areas, but this type of program, the Drone as First Responder, has utility across different geographic applications.
Absolutely. And so when it comes to those calls, is it only deployed for a certain type of emergency, or is it something that you make the decision in the moment, or just sort of a universal tool?
Yeah, so the way the program's designed, and this was something that we worked very hard with our council members and our public, is that we're sending the drone to 911 emergencies or police-generated calls for service. So it's not up patrolling, it's not doing general surveillance, it's not following people around. It's only being used for 911 calls and police-generated calls. So how does that happen? So we actually have a procedure where because people ask, what type of calls do you fly? It's easier to say what we don't fly. So we don't fly occurred earlier calls where there's no suspect on scene or no safety issue. And furthermore, we don't fly, parking complaints, noise complaints, animal issues. So there was a concern that in New York, I think it was last Labor Day, they were sending drones up to peer into people's backyards if there was loud Labor Day parties. So our community was like, we don't want that. And we were like, hey, we don't want to do that either. So it was a great, relationship with our community to say, that's an easy one. We're not going to fly. So 911 call comes in, or a police officer gets on the police dispatch and says they're out with an emergency, and we can send the drone to those calls if it meets that criteria, if it's in progress and there's a potential where there's suspects or some safety issues present.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, of course, like a very responsible thing to hear, that, that you have that public input that's coming into it, and that you guys were already sort of the mind that you don't want to overuse it in certain situations where you wouldn't need to. And so that's, we love to see those kind of collaborations in the community, especially with public safety. And they're not unique, which is why I like talking about these issues on the podcast, is that it gives us an opportunity to show the good, responsible work that our public safety entities are ultimately doing. But so, okay, so you've got some like policies in place like that for when you use it and when you don't. Like, do you have a particularly impactful success story from the program?
Oh, you have a few. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, exactly. We do have a bunch. So we're actually getting ready. By the end of this month, we're going to put out a public report we've been sharing data. We shared some data from after the first quarter of this year. We've been giving some periodic data out to not only our county executive and our county council members, but also our public. But we're going to put actually a robust report out here after the end of June. So that'll be the end of the second quarter, where we're going to actually list a lot of these case examples and successes and like kind of tell the story a little more than just numbers. But we look at the successes so far. We tie everything back to our goals of what we thought this was going to do. Improve police response times. Yeah, we're getting to 911 emergencies within a minute with the drone. So once it's up, it's there within a minute. And
in the context of shortages, staffing shortages, I mean, that is that's life-saving stuff right there. That's what I mean. That's the difference between life and death. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with, when emergency first responders are going to calls, they're battling traffic. They have to drive in awareness of pedestrians, right? So they can't go super, super fast, but the drone's up in the sky flying with, there's no obstructions like there would be on the street level. So we can just get there, which is nice.
Wow.
The efficiency, right, of our police resources. We've been able to, in over 110 calls, the drone's been able to get there and say, hey, we don't need police officers to come here. So we've been able to free up over 200 police officers since we started in mid-November. That allows them to go to other emergencies or do other law enforcement activities. Maybe they were in the middle of a community engagement. They were having a good conversation with a community member, and they get this radio call and they would have to abruptly leave the conversation. But the drone's there and says, hey, we don't need you to come over here. We'll take care of it. And that allows them to keep talking with our residents and building relationships with our businesses. So
definitely. Yeah. So like faster service delivery and a conservation of resources so that they're expended effectively. I mean, yeah, that's two big positives for sure.
Well, I think too, the other thing about this that's so critical is that, remember, all of these are human-based things, right? And so the 911 caller is saying what they perceived or thought they saw or are witnessing. And the 911 operator is trying to discern more information and keep that going. But if the criteria is met for dispatch of the drone based on what call comes in, the drone can get there so much faster and help facilitate the information gathering that's going on, and in addition to informing public safety personnel as to what type of response might be necessary.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense, especially in terms of what someone mentally and emotionally is going through during an emergency. And sometimes recalling or sharing the information can be difficult. So having that additional set of eyes that early makes the response even more efficient and faster.
Well, and it allows for better decision making by our first responders too. And it actually keeps everybody safer. So if we can have more information sooner, we can make better decisions, which provide more positive outcomes. And so we've seen that with this program where we're there first. We've received calls from our community where the allegation is that a subject is armed with a knife, is armed with a gun. And we've had these cases in Silver Spring where the drone's gotten there and we zoom in and we've located the subject. They're not presently armed. They're not an immediate danger to anyone. And we're able to keep an eye on them and reduce the intensity of that police response. We don't have to have officers jumping out of the car with their guns out yelling, right? Because we're keeping an eye on it. We know, hey, we don't see a weapon. It may still warrant an investigation, but it can be a less intense approach, which keeps everybody safer. It de-escalates everything.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, that's like a de-escalation tool where like you come in with a more measured and appropriate response based on the situation. I mean that, yeah, and de-escalation, I know that's a big word that everyone's been talking about over the last couple of years with police reform, and it's obviously very important. And so now to have technology that adds to the human element for that is
Right.
game changer in a way.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing too. And like we get overhead of an event that is a lights and sirens call. And even when we talk about de-escalation can be as simple as, hey, we're overhead. What was reported is not actively happening. The officers can slow their response. So they can turn off their lights and sirens. They don't have to drive as much in a hurry. So that keeps our community safer because, we're driving lights and sirens through traffic. And, so if we could slow officers down, that makes them, be able to get there safely and improves the safety of the other motorists on the road. And so there's a lot of safety that we're seeing out of this, which is, I think the number one success is that, right? If we can keep people safe for everybody in the community, that's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I can understand why you would want to expand that and why other communities would see that kind of other communities in Montgomery County would see that success and want that too. Absolutely. Well, so when it comes to the individual officer, like can any officer use it, or is it just the division that launches it and it's those officers are trained on it specifically?
Yeah. So it's operates out of the Special Operations Division. In order to work in the program, there's it's like a job announcement within the police department. It's a specialty job. And we have what's called decentralized pilots. So they have other job tasks. Right now, we don't have anybody assigned full time to this program, especially as we were, proving concept and testing it out. So we've been using a handful of decentralized people. So they apply for the job, they go through an interview process and a selection process. And then once they make it onto the unit, that's when they get specialized training and they get, signed off on to be able to utilize the software and equipment and participate in the program.
Right. Because it's a lot of, I would imagine, because it's not just giving real-time eyes, it's also recording. And so then that goes into, and you mentioned before, that goes into evidence, and it's got to be stored a certain way. It's got to be handled a certain way. I would imagine redacted in some instances for a PIA request. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of like technical training that they would be going through.
Yeah. And also, I think one of the things with this that I want to make sure everybody's aware of, because Captain Cokinos was very receptive and responsive to the community's feedback, as he's already discussed, but the drone flies it does have a camera on it, but the camera is not pointed down or activated in that way until it arrives on scene. So it's not recording things along the way, right? And that's an important distinction.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Especially, if it's covering like, half a mile before it gets there. That's a lot of privacy saved ultimately.
Yep. Yeah. And that was the whole, and working with everybody, right? And what's so cool about this program, it excites me, is that like so many partnerships have been involved in this, from the community to regional services directors, council members, council staff, chambers of commerce, like everybody's kind of been involved in this, which is just so cool to see. And so we're like wide open to feedback and thoughts and ideas of everybody. And so, the camera's up, it's not recording. We want to have the least amount of visual intrusion into the community. We only use it to focus on the area of the emergency. And so not only is it heavily regulated from an airspace, an FAA, TSA standpoint, there's a lot of Montgomery County policy and procedures. There's a lot of tech. There's a lot of, how to just utilize the software and understand the aircraft. So there's a lot of training that goes into it. And it's one of our pilots, our newer pilots, was saying the other day, he's like, man, there's a lot that goes into this. And it's like, absolutely. Yeah. This is a serious program. There's no corner cutting.
Yeah. And that's what I wonder too, in terms of like the candidates. I mean, it's such an innovative program, and sure, there is a lot of training, and sometimes a lot of training can be a drawback for some people, but it's just so interesting. And it's so technology heavy. Like, are you getting a lot of people who are like, oh, that's so interesting and exciting, like I want to apply for that? Like, is it competitive, or is it just sort of the people that like tech stuff are the ones that are typically going to apply to it?
Yeah. So the first round of pilot announcements, we got, I think, 16 people that applied, and we took 12 people. That was our first round last year. And we just put another announcement out in anticipation for our growth into the Up County and expanded hours in Silver Spring and Wheaton and Bethesda. So we put out an announcement, and we had 40 applicants this time. So
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, almost triple the amount of applicants, or at least double the amount of applicants. And so we're looking to take another batch of people that we're working on. Hopefully we'll have them onboarded by the end of the summer, and we can start getting them through the different phases of training as well.
Yeah, well, and like, new programs that offer incentives, like being able to do something interesting like this and learn a new skill. I feel like that could be a powerful thing in terms of incentivizing retention and recruitment. I think it works both ways.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you're offering something that inspires people to look at new things in their job, it's a problem we want to have, that there are 40 applicants, right? That's a great thing. And, I want to commend our department as a whole in continuing to be innovative in how we manage law enforcement and collaboration across the public safety spectrum here in Montgomery County, because we do an outstanding job.
Yeah. Well, and you've talked so much about this being sort of a holistic thing, and the community is involved, and you've got the privacy concerns addressed. Do you guys have plans to sort of look at the policies and the program as you expand it, or just as it continues to sort of like look at how it started and try to figure out, all right, does something need to be tweaked? Are there changes we want to make when it comes to either the policy or the implementation? Like, do you guys have like check-ins once a year planned?
So internally, we're constantly,
Oh yeah,
you saw the amount of nightly almost things that happen that we're learning. Whether it could be as simple as our piloting software just had an update, and there's different changes of functionality now. We've had changes in the way that we coordinate with the TSA and the FAA for airspace authorization. That's changed multiple times since we started. And obviously, as we grow the program, as we keep interacting with the community, we keep getting feedback. So everything's living. So the policy, absolutely, we're always going to be reviewing it to see if we can update it. But what has changed more frequently has been some of the internal procedures as we go through this program, and we identify things like, so for the latest one, for example, it's about to come out. Every time we fly a call, it has to be associated with a police computer-aided dispatch number, right? Because we only fly 911 calls and stuff. But what came up recently was Maryland State Police. We assisted them on the interstate with a potential assault on the inner loop. Now that was a call generated through Maryland State Police. So I was like, oh, we need a Montgomery County event number for that. A little administrative stuff.
Right,
so we realized that we need to write a new procedure that when we're asked for by an allied law enforcement agency to assist on a 911 call, it was legitimate. We have to pull our own records at the Montgomery County Dispatch Center to be able to codify that flight. So little things like that are constantly happening as we grow, as people learn about us and they ask for us and we help other people.
Yeah. And now that I'm thinking about that, I think you may have just sort of mentioned it, sort of like the flight, the regulations in terms of the airspace instead. So is the FAA involved in this at all? Or is that like, did you have to work with them to get your program up and going? Or like, how does that interact with your program when either you're running it on your own with Montgomery County or it's assisting the state perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, we are operating in the most heavily restricted airspace in the country. Right. So it's very challenging. And that's why we're different, than Chula Vista and Santa Monica and Beverly Hills and places. Is everyone's airspace is different, and we're operating, right outside Washington, D.C. So we could not be doing what we're doing if it wasn't for our relationships with the FAA and the TSA. And so we started working with them right from the beginning with this concept. And it was a little difficult at first. There was some very stringent rules and procedures we had to follow, and I totally understand why, and it was very appropriate for what they're looking to do. But now that we are coming up soon, we will hit our 800th flight this month. Since mid-November, we will have flown 800 missions.
Wow.
And
I'm excited to see the report that you guys. When did you say the report was going to come out? We'd love to share it with others.
Yeah, it's going to definitely be made public. What I'm waiting for is the end of the month just to get the final numbers of the second quarter, and then we're going to plug it in, and so by the end of June we'll have something that everybody will have access to, and I think people are going to like it. It's going to be really exciting. We're going to have some pictures in there and different stuff like that.
Well, yeah, and even just outside of Montgomery County, I mean, other counties. And one of the benefits of an organization like MACO is that it brings the counties together and communicating with other affiliates and other professionals, so that you can get a sense of like, what are the other jurisdictions doing? What is working for them? What's not working for them? And how might I be able to apply some of those things, for my own jurisdiction? And I think, we would love, because I think when we share this podcast and we share that report, I think we're going to get a lot of people, especially when you talk about some of the cost savings, some of the efficiencies, and some of the positive community feedback. I think there's going to be a lot of people interested in being able to provide something like this for their community too.
And in terms of the FAA and the TSA, these are complex regulatory issues that have to be dealt with. And, other jurisdictions can benefit from the expertise that our department has developed in terms of those relationships. Even within Montgomery County, we have different levels of restriction, right? Because part of our county borders the District of Columbia, part of our county is further out. So there's different rules that apply based geographically on where you may be flying from within the county itself. And so these are all valuable pieces of information that can help inform other jurisdictions who may want to develop a similar program.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about sort of the layering of that map in terms of the different restrictions depending on the geographic area. Like, so the air above a certain spot might have a different regulation than another one.
Correct.
And it will. Yeah, and it will. And so when we get up to the up county in Gaithersburg and Germantown, that's outside of the flight restricted zone. So we're going to have a lot more, less restrictions. It doesn't mean that we're going to do things any differently. We're still going to, we have a high standard that we've set, but it's one less piece of the puzzle up there, and it will allow us to do some different things that are awesome. So
go ahead, John.
I was going to say, it means you can cover a bigger area, if you will, with one flight capability.
Yeah, with more fluidity and like the potential that less obstructions sort of get in the way of trying to, address a situation quick, which is what you want, in first responding. You want urgency for sure. So you're talking about up county. So what are the next steps in terms of rolling out the other programs in Montgomery County?
Sure. So we have an up county drone as first responder town hall meeting coming up at the end of June. I believe it's going to be on June 26th. I think we are waiting to solidify the location, but likely Gaithersburg High School. But we'll be posting on social media to make sure the community is informed, and anyone else who wants to come who may not be from the up county but wants to just learn more about this project and this process, we're happy to have them. This is a great way to answer those questions about technology and about the law and the utility of it all, to make sure the community feels comfortable with it. But I think here in the up county situation is slightly different in that once the community heard about the programs that were going to be launched down county, they wanted to know, well, how come we're not getting one too? So this was very community driven in the please, yes, can we have this? It'll help so much with our local area.
Yeah, well, and just also the responsibility and prudence that comes with needing to make sure that, the local public safety officials fully understand how this operates, figure out like the pitfalls and the positive things, so that when you do roll it out to other locations, like it's streamlined in a way. So and like holding the town hall, I mean, it just goes to show like the openness and the transparency, I think, just furthers the public trust in something like this. Which
from a transparency standpoint, we not only do these town halls, and they wouldn't be possible without our partnership with the council members in their respective areas, because that's how we've been getting a lot of people to come out, is just utilizing our regional services directors, our council members, and just really putting blast out there. But also we have a website, and on the website we have a transparency dashboard that updates every day with real-time information from the shift before. The night before, we'll publish the amount of flights and the types of calls and different stuff. And then we actually have a flight maps and data page that the public can go to, and they can see exactly where we flew and what we flew for. So everything's very transparent to make sure that we want to do what we can to prove to the community that we're using this in a responsible way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so with the town hall, if everything goes well, do you think you'd be up and running in like 6 months or sooner?
Hopefully sooner. So we are
Wow.
doing a lot of things behind the scenes to get ready. My goal is to be flying 911 emergencies in the Gaithersburg, Germantown area in early July. So we're just finalizing some infrastructure and where we're going to place the drone, and we're getting our additional staffing kind of set up. And we're not going to go live until we, of course, have done our community engagement and also engagement with our partners in the city of Gaithersburg and Gaithersburg City Police and our police officers and our other public safety folks up there. So right now in June and into early July, we're doing all of our engagement. And then hopefully in early to mid-July, we can be up and running.
Wow. Man. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today. I mean, so do you have any sort of parting thoughts you wanted to leave our audience with before we wrap it up?
I'm just truly excited about this project. I've been excited about it since Captain Cokinos first had the very first discussion about it, and his enthusiasm, of course, is contagious. But it's such a pragmatic solution, and also innovative in using technology that we have available. And again, new technology develops, that's whether it's for the public or for public safety purposes. And, we have old laws that govern it, but the old laws are still good laws, right? And so simply because something is electronic or technology based doesn't mean that it changes fundamentally the overall analysis that applies. And there's been a lot of work done with respect to that, to making sure that all constitutional protections are in place for use of this technology, no different than body-worn camera technology, et cetera. And I fully appreciate the collaboration, again, that we get from the department in coming out to help talk to the community about that and make sure that we are able to explain both technology and complex law to constituents, to residents in meaningful ways that make sense.
And I absolutely, from a Mako perspective, echo that sentiment of excitement. I'm excited to share a lot of this information with other jurisdictions, because it sounds like what the benefits that your community is getting and seeing sort of amongst these historic challenges that we're facing when it comes to public safety are just so valuable in terms of quality of life, and the experience that people want to have where they live. And yeah, so I echo that sentiment of excitement, certainly.
Yeah, it is. It is exciting. It's exciting. I think what's exciting for me is, to see it work. Like, it's actually working the way we thought it would, which I didn't really have a doubt on that, but I didn't realize how well it was going to work. Like, and it's working really good. Like, in all the different facets, it's very exciting to hear, a pilot tell a success story, or to be in the room when a business is being victimized and the drone is there, and we call the business employee or the business owner and we say, hey, you called about this person that just committed this crime at your establishment. We're here with a drone. We see them, and we guided officers in, and they arrested the person. And the business owner's like, thank God, we've been needing some relief. We need, public safety. So to see, we call, community members, we have a procedure where we call people that call 911 when we send the drone. We tell them the drone's there and different stuff. And the feedback has just been really exciting from the community. So that was what kind of excites me. And then obviously to see the success of it. So, I'm just excited to keep building upon it. I'm excited to service the Up County who desperately, I think, needs this technology. I think it's going to benefit the folks that live up there, and just kind of excited to keep it going.
Yeah, well, so Councilmember Luedtke and Captain Cokinos, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. You know, like I said, we love sharing with audience members the good and responsible work counties are doing in the public safety space, and I can't wait to see the report and share it far and wide. And truthfully, I also, you know, when it comes to the policies around these types of technology, inevitably the General Assembly gets involved when it comes to regulatory stuff. We saw it a little bit with facial recognition technology. And one thing that I really appreciated about the work that Delegate David Moon had done on facial recognition is that in that work group, they really listened to and heard everyone's concerns. And it was like everyone got a little bit of what they were looking for in terms of how it was going to be managed. And no one got steamrolled on it, whether it was the state stakeholders, privacy stakeholders, public safety professionals. It was really a responsible approach when it came to technology. And so from that legislative perspective and the work that I do with public safety on behalf of those counties, like this is something I'd be looking forward to working with and collaborating with local and state stakeholders on this. All right. So before we leave you for today, I'll share a couple reminders. The Mako Summer Conference is right around the corner, so be sure to register and make your hotel reservations to join us in Ocean City from August 14 to 17 at the Roland Powell Convention Center in Ocean City, Maryland. And will you both be joining us down there for a fun-filled informational week?
I will be there
right.
along with my trusty husband. Yes, we will both be there.
I'm not sure where I'll be in August, but I'll be somewhere.
Nice. All right. Well, I hope you're enjoying yourself wherever that is. So, and our second reminder, the Mako Legislative Initiatives submission period is now open for the 2025 legislative session. So in particular, our county professionals, county council members, executives, commissioners, and community members, if you have an idea that you think demands consideration, send it our way. You can find submission details on the Conduit Street blog and search Mako 2025 initiatives. And we'll also go ahead and leave the link in the show notes of the episode today. Now, remember, if you enjoyed this episode, we have an extensive catalog of prior episodes you can check out wherever you listen to and enjoy your podcast. And I am talking deep, granular, swan dives into the weeds kind of content here. We have no shame. We love local government policy, so as I believe my friends on this podcast today do as well.
For sure.
So for those who celebrate the same, please enjoy. And while you're listening, go ahead and give us a review, share with friends, and spread the good word of your friendly, nonpartisan, nonprofit county association. All right, now for Councilmember Dawn Luedtke and Captain Jason Cokinos from Montgomery County, I'm Sarah Sample, signing off for the Conduit Street Podcast, and we will talk to you soon.